What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Surviving This Side Hustle. On today's episode, we've got Lance Cayko, and that is correct. Psycho, as in like the psycho killer, spelled Cayko. But I'm excited to have him come on because he is a multi-talented serial entrepreneur, architect, builder, lecturer, and podcaster. He has a diverse background in architecture, construction, real estate development, and is the co-founder and partner of F9 Productions, which is a wildly successful design and build firm based in Longmont, Colorado, which specializes in single-family residential, multifamily residential, and small commercial projects. So Lance, man, how are you doing, dude?
Doing awesome. Yeah, excited for the weekend, excited for the long break next week, Independence Day, and happy to be here, Rob.
Yeah. I'm excited that you're here and happy to kind of dive into hearing a bit more about your story. So if you could, would you mind sharing a little bit about where are you coming from? Who do you help? What do you kind of do sort of thing?
Yeah, as the beautiful introduction you gave me implies, I do a lot of things. I think my big title that I try to umbrella everything under is serial entrepreneur. I'm 42 years old. I grew up in Northwest North Dakota. My journey in entrepreneurship starts when I was 13 years old, believe it or not. And it wasn't that I started my own business. It was I grew up between a sugar beet farm and a cattle ranch. And I tried to actually do irrigation and work on the farm with my dad. It lasted about a week. I hated it. And I called his best friend Bruce up, who was a general contractor, because I'd always been interested in like building stuff. And Bruce said, "Yeah, I'll hire you. You could be my gopher. You go for this, go for that. When you're done going for the things, then you can come up and learn how to roof on the roof." That was the best dang gopher he ever had. About halfway through the summer, he just saw something in me that I think he didn't see with the other guys. Pulled me aside and said, "I'm paying you $7.25 an hour. What do you think I'm charging the owners?" And I go, $7.25 an hour. He laughed. I was embarrassed. And then he explained how a service-based business works in terms of employing people. He goes, "No, I'm charging them 3 to 4x when I'm paying you." And I go, isn't that immoral? Isn't that wrong? And he goes, no. And then he explained profit, overhead. Bruce was the first entrepreneur that I'd ever met. He was the first real one, right? Because like my mom is a dental assistant. God bless her. Now she runs the office. But like, just a worker. She's been there for like 40 years. Dad kind of kept the farm going and all of that, but like not an entrepreneur or anything like that. And they had a they always had a phrase they'd say that really bugged me when I was a kid. It was money isn't everything. And I saw their relationship with money, which was one of anxiety. It wasn't we were starving, it was a problem. I remember there was $1,000 bill once we got in the mail because I accidentally, I didn't know any better, ran up a telephone bill. And it was like the world had fallen. I mean, I thought it was just like awful, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then Bruce, on the other hand, totally different relationship with money, right? It's not that he was rich, he just didn't worry about it like them. And then about 10 years ago, to bring it full circle, is like one of my favorite rappers, Kanye West. He completed the circle of just with this phrase. He goes, "Money isn't everything, but not having it is." It was off the Graduation album. And so at the end of the summer, working with Bruce, he goes, "What do you want to be?" And I go, "How do I be you?" And he goes, "Next year you don't work for me." And I go, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you want to be a general contractor, like you should go learn a different trade. Not next, like why don't you go learn framing next year? Next summer after that to go learn concrete." And I took him up on it. I did. So I didn't work for him. And I worked a different trade up until I was 20, so about 9 years in a row, and went to building construction tech in Wahpeton and was ready to be a general contractor. And then these blueprints got handed to me because our capstone project was build a house with your team. And the word architect popped into my head. I'd never thought about that. And I was like, well, I really like school now. Like suddenly, I'm good at it. And if I became the architect first, like I could get the building contract too. Like at 20 years old, I'm having this epiphany. And so I did that. I applied to North Dakota State, 70 miles north, graduated at the top of the class, got in the architecture program. And then one more word kind of fell into my brain at that point too. I heard this word over and over again, developer, as in architecture school. I'd never heard of that word either, or that entity. And then that was the second big light bulb that went off for me. And it was like, eventually I should become a real estate developer, because then I'm the architect, the builder, the real estate developer. I get paid 3 times. So graduated, came down to Boulder, got my heart broken, got laid off in the Great Recession, and then started F9. Started for 3 years. My business partner came from New York City. He got laid off from a really prominent firm, and in the last 15 years, we've just grinded it out. We were like the garage story. Started with nothing, and now we're up to 10 architects, and we have the full-fledged design, build, develop different companies. So that's what brings me here today. And then our podcast just wraps it all up inside the firm, and I try to talk to people like you, Rob.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's an awesome story. I appreciate you sharing that. But could you just give me a little bit more clarification on the difference between those? Because to me, those all sound pretty similar, like the builder, the architect, and the developer. To me, it sounds like the same position. But you're just telling me that it's three different roles, and you're making three amounts of money for those roles, and all these other things. Can you enlighten me?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I know, but a lot of folks get it confused, and that's okay. I actually think the American Institute of Architects needs to do a better job of marketing because they should help out the architects. So if you're an architect, I know I've always got this question too from just family members who are like, "What are you building?" I'm like, when I was just an architect, I'm like, I'm only drawing, I'm only designing, like I'm not building anything. And that's the biggest differentiator you could just think of. The architect is drawing, he's designing, and they are probably managing the other engineers, but they're not picking up a hammer and building anything. The builder is building stuff, picking up hammers. They're in control of like the electricians, mechanical people, plumbing people, foundation people. The developer is in charge of everybody. They end up hiring the architect, they hire the builder, they buy the land, and they are taking the biggest risk and they get paid the last, but they usually with the biggest risk, you get the biggest reward in the end.
So F9 itself is a development organization or a development company, I guess.
F9 is our architecture company, F12 is our development company, and F14 Productions is our general contracting firm.
Oh, okay. Very cool, very cool. And so how did you find your partner from New York City? Where did he
Well,
come
so
from?
yeah. So to clarify, also he and I went to school together in at North Dakota State in Fargo. He's from Rochester, Minnesota. I'm from again that northwest part of North Dakota, kind of middle of nowhere. We met in architecture school. We hated each other at first, but we're so goofy and weird. I think we just like challenges and like trying new things. He was so intrigued with me being able to get the girls, and I was so intrigued with because he couldn't, and I was so intrigued with him that like everybody loves this kid. Like I was like everybody loves him, boys, girls, not in a romantic way, but just like they gravitated to this guy. He's just so gregarious. He still is. I mean, that's why reason why my business partner. Everybody loves Alex. No, he has almost no enemies, right? And so we kind of just challenged each other the second semester of architecture school. We observed each other the first semester and we're like, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy. Or it was just very strange. And we sat right across from each other that second semester and really got to know each other and like found out like, you're actually the perfect counterpart for me. I'm the perfect counterpart for you. Eventually, then a couple semesters later, we did a design competition together. That semester after that, we actually won another design competition together. And then we just became best friends. And we're basically brothers at this point. Like my kids call him Uncle Al. So after we graduated, he went to New York City. I went to Boulder. And then we came back together.
Yeah, see, I love that because whenever I'm talking about creating opportunity or working with clients about developing and creating new opportunities for themselves or their businesses and such, constantly I'm always talking about different forms of collaboration. And when I first moved to my apartment building, I was still full-time strength and conditioning coach, and I put out a message on the community wall asking if there were any personal trainers in the building. And a couple of people had responded to me, and when they found out that I was a strength and conditioning coach, they were kind of like, "Oh, what are you like? What are you just trying to scope me out and spy on my business?" But one of them who did respond, and they were pretty cool, I got to continue the conversation and explain that I was asking for other personal trainers and other people in the area because I wanted to get together and collaborate and host something for their residents. Whether they talked about nutrition or I talked about mobility or whatever, we worked together to create an event, then collaborate. So then we could bring in additional leads, providing a service and value to everybody, and then work together. And then from there, you can kind of do your own for the sales and individuality. But I'm a high believer of not necessarily or not really looking at competition as competition, looking as opportunity to create collaborations and working together. And I love that because you and Alex were essentially enemies at first, and then you got to know each other and realized you were perfect counterparts. And you turned that kind of competition into a great collaboration going through here. And what I'm leaning towards here is just what other kinds of collaborations do you work with? Because I imagine you've got a pretty vast network of individuals that you hire and work with.
Thank you for leading me to that, because I'm like bursting to tell you a quick story about that. I actually, right after our podcast today, I have a phone call to hopefully secure a new architecture contract for a brand new house that we're going to draw down in southern Colorado. And that lead came from the most interesting lead. I think that a lot of architects would just be their egos would get in the way of being able to get to that lead for that business. So for the last 3 years, our firm, F9, has been a finalist for the Best of Mile High in Best of Customer Service for the entire state of Colorado. The first 2 years we won it. The last year we lost. And I was at the award ceremony with my daughter, hoping we'd win because, you get to see your dad. There's a red carpet. We dressed up. It was super fun. And this gal beat us. Her name is Dahlia. I was like, who is this? I'm going to give her a shout out too. And she's a competitor, right? Like literally. Her firm is Dope Architecture. And I went and looked her up. I'm like, I've never heard of this woman. I've never heard of this studio. And if she beat us, because prior to that, we were just blowing people out of the water because we were so business savvy compared to, I think, of most architects. Most architects are not. Most architects they want to be artists. They want to just design. There's no business acumen to it, right? And Alex and I really try to be 50-50 and we're trying to change the game. And that's also what we talk about on our show a lot. And so I have to meet this person who beat us. I have to meet her. And I'm like, so I reached out to her on Instagram and I said, hey, I would just love to meet the person that beat us. And I think you're just doing a fantastic job. And I'm always up for networking. She goes, absolutely. So got right back to me. We went and met. And my suspicion, one of the suspicions I had after looking at her profile on Insta was, it looks like she's mostly doing interior architecture. So while she is a competitor, I bet she gets so many referrals because she has so many, or gets so many inquiries because she has so many good 5-star reviews and her social media is so good. I bet she's turning stuff down that she doesn't want to do. I bet there's commercial work that she doesn't want to do because it looks like she focuses on high-end residential. Because we do all of it. We do high-end residential, multifamily, and then commercial industrial stuff at our office. My suspicions were completely right.
Mm-hmm.
I had lunch with her. She's amazing. I prayed with her at lunch. Like, it was just so cool. And I've gotten referral after because of that. Because I was exactly correct. I was like, my guess was right about it. And this last house that she's referring us to is exactly it. And she also only had like a certain radius she wanted to do, like from this city in Denver. And I was like, well, we serve the whole state. And she's like, awesome. I would love to send referrals your way. She's like, I was waiting for somebody like you to meet. Because she goes, because you know how referrals work. Like, if I'm going to refer somebody to somebody, I'm kind of sticking my own neck out and saying this person is good to work with, right? And if they don't, it's like, ugh. So, that's my tangential story about it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's a perfect example too. So I love that. I love seeing opportunities created through collaboration. But it sounds like there's a lot of seems like everything's been smoothly rolling for you. You graduated top of your class. You had a great mentor kicking things off. Your competition turned into your partner. Then you've got more competition turning into referral sources for you. It can't be all smooth sailing. There's had to have been some ups and downs through the way here. So I'm looking to hear, is there anything that you had to go through that really challenged you along your journey, where it was really kind of pushing back and made you second guess, or maybe you have to take an alternative path?
A couple things. And the biggest one was that I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now, Rob, I don't think, or I would have the architecture firm if I didn't have one of the biggest setbacks in my life right after graduating, landing that internship down here in Boulder, Colorado for 9 months, then getting laid off with no job prospects because it was during the Great Recession. For the architecture, engineering, and construction community, we had a 50% unemployment rate because we were the problem, right? It was The Big Short. If anybody's watched The Big Short on Netflix, you watch that and you go, oh, it was the real estate community. It was overinflated, just too much easy money from the Fed and all that other stuff. I got laid off and I just had a child, my second child. I had got $1,000 severance from the firm, and it was like, good luck. There was nothing out there. So rather than, I didn't want to go back to North Dakota. I was like, I worked my whole life to get to the Rocky Mountain region. Colorado is like so beautiful. There's so many things to do. The climate is fantastic. I was just like, I'm not going to leave. And I had put, so I go, well, I'm going to fall back on all my construction experience. But I'm not going to go work for anybody because there's no jobs. I'm going to have to find my own work. So I put out Craigslist ads. And Craigslist was pretty good back in the day. Like, it was still seedy, but not as crazy as it is now, at least I think. And so in my true contrarian fashion, I was like, I looked at my competitors, and my competitors were like gruff old men, poor grammar, maybe a substance issue. And I was like, I bet there's a ton of housewives in Boulder who want to hire somebody like me. So what if I market myself in the opposite way? So I did it with a little bit of like ego inflation. It was like young, smart, handsome, sober. Those are literally words I would use, like master's degree, person for hire, can do all these skills. Phone was ringing off the hook. I was instantly employable. I worked for cash for like 3 or 4 months. And at the same time, I had a lead on some like CAD work through this website I was uploading all these models to. And I turned it all around. I ended up then, actually making more money than I was at the firm for those first couple months. Then even more money once I landed that sort of ongoing CAD work, to the point where then Alex, he was laid off at the same time. I called him up and I go, hey, I just got a house also, like the design one, and a clinic. And I go, I think I have like a workflow for how we can bring in work. Like, it's very guerrilla. It's very different. Nobody else is doing this. And going out of the way on Craigslist to advertise architecture and design services. And I go, how much cash do you got? And he goes, I got a couple months. I go, the apartment above me just opened up. It's 1 bedroom. And he goes, good. I just can't take living with mom and dad anymore. So he comes down from Minnesota. And then, yes, there's many struggles along the way, but that big one was so important. And that's why my preferred pronouns on LinkedIn are positive reactionary. I try to be this positive reactionary when the negative stuff happens.
Yeah, wow. I love that. And I help teach this public speaking class or workshop every once in a while with a buddy of mine. And it's his whole business thing is the public speaking world. And he has a really great exercise in there involving quotes and phrases. And he's going to be angry at me if he hears this, but I forget who it was. But somebody was quoted saying that in order for sometimes great things need to fall apart before some impressive things can fall together. And I think that is a perfect example of that quote. Like, life's falling apart, stressed out, you just had your second kid, and you turn that challenge, that obstacle really into what's now created your business and everything else you've got going on. So that's just an incredible story to hear. So I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to kind of dig a little bit more into some of the things that you've got going on now. So, like, as you continue to grow with the business and new challenges popping up, how do you stay grounded and how do you continue to move and progress forward in the world?
Well, I have this thing I call the golden hours, and I learned it very early. So you want to talk about setbacks? Here's another one. It was a potential setback. We'll go back in time a little bit. I would have been 20. I would have been 20, 21. Just started architecture school. Just got into it, and I got my girlfriend pregnant. Right. I ended up marrying her. She's my wife. But I got her pregnant, and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to do this now? Right. And I was like, I don't know if I can. I'm not sure could live with myself if I blew this opportunity to become an architect and then a builder, right? It was just like this formula was in my head from
Yeah.
when I was 20, like I talked about. And so I was like, well, what's got to change? Well, there's no more drinking, smoking, hanging out with the boys, partying. Obviously, that's got to go away. And I was like, and then how do I do all this? Because architecture school is very taxing. To become a really good designer, like you are in the studio almost nonstop. I mean, the other classes kind of become secondary after that. Like, you're really trying to hone in on the design skills because you got to have that portfolio at the end. You got to graduate at the top. There's always more architectural graduates than there are jobs. It's always been that way. It's a sexy profession. George Costanza wanted to be an architect. So it's like, what I had to do is I had to become a morning person. And I had to anyway because I was going to have a child, right? It was like, oh, yeah, I got to wake up early. This is how it works. So I would, I started like embracing waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. before the sun came up as a 21-year-old, right? I would be the first one in the studio. I'd be the last one to leave. But there was something magical about that would happen in the morning. And that's why it's like a metaphorical plus a reality of like, it is the golden hours and the sun like coming into the windows, setting your circadian rhythm correct for the day. And then there's also something about like getting ahead of everybody. Well, like, and I've continued that practice for since I was 20. So I'm 42, about 22 years. And that has probably been the one big thing that has set me apart from everybody else. There's other things too to help me get here and run all these companies and do all these things. Cause we haven't even talked about like the nonprofit or like me being a professional fisherman, having 4 kids, teaching at 2 universities, all that kind of stuff is now like to hone in on it. Like what it exactly is now is I get up at 4 or 5 still and I go to bed early though, like last night it was like 9, 10 PM. So I get my sleep in. I'm kind of a hypomanic, self-diagnosed. I just kind of learned about that's a real thing. And so I'll get up, drink a big glass of water. I don't drink alcohol or smoke or anything like that. Take a big glass of water with electrolytes. I do a French press because I believe in like sort of this analog living a little bit. So I'll grind the coffee because it's kind of a ritual too. Grind the coffee, get the water going with the tea kettle, get the coffee pouring in the French press, kind of set it aside. Then I grab my rosary. I'm a pretty religious Catholic dude and go sit on the floor, stretch real hard, stretch my legs, stretch everything, my back, loosen up. And then I pray the rosary almost every single morning. And that's my form of meditation and centering. By the time I'm done, like today was a perfect day. Right when I finished that last prayer, I heard the tea kettle go and it was like perfect. Got up, poured the water in the French press, set the timer for 5 minutes, start the computer up. 5 minutes passes after I've kind of started a few emails, get the coffee going, and then I'm cranking pretty hard for about like 2 hours, getting ahead of everybody, scheduling emails, focusing my day, looking at my calendar, getting prepped for podcasts like this. And then by the time the business world wakes up, 7 or 8 a.m., it's not pulling me. Like I've been pulling it. I've manifested the reality of my day. That doesn't mean things don't go wrong and I have to completely throw out my whole schedule because I'm a builder too, right? That's usually one of the biggest things is like there's building emergencies that will happen. Pipes burst, who knows what kind of stuff happens like that. But that's, I'd say, one of the biggest practices that I do that has just been set me up for success all the way through my adulthood.
Man, yeah, I really love that too. My dad used to work at Boeing actually, and he would get up and he would be out of the house by like 3:30. So, and then he'd be done with his day super early too. And that never really hit me until I got to grad school and I was always being distracted. Phones always going off, people going out, going to the bars and stuff like that. And I decided I was really going to take it seriously in grad school. So I started to actually drive my friends to the bars at night. And then I'd go home, phone off, go to sleep. I'd wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd pick my friends up from the bars, drop them off at home. And then that's when I would get to work on my studies. And the same exact thing as you, like getting that excitement of getting ahead of everybody else while they're sleeping and doing stuff just really amplified my like mood and productivity and really pushed me. So I'm a huge fan of that whole idea of getting up early and getting after it before everybody. And so I appreciate you sharing that and diving into your morning routine because I always like to get a little insight on other people's mornings and stuff. But you mentioned a lot of different hats you wear and different roles you play. How do you keep it all like aligned and organized? Because I find myself constantly switching roles between just boyfriend, friend, like coach, podcaster, social media. And sometimes it's difficult for me to shift that one role to another role, especially when I have to bounce back and forth between roles throughout the day. So I'm interested to hear, how do you handle the different role switching?
Discipline equals freedom, right? Jocko Willink. And I think I needed that phrase to finally come into my life because I just was disciplined, starting with that morning routine, right? That's when I also started to just schedule everything. And I would show my dad my schedule. And he's just the opposite. He can't hold a schedule. My brother too. It's just, it can't happen. And they get overwhelmed when I look at it and they go, that's what they say. They go, doesn't that overwhelm you? And I go, no, this gives me peace because I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be, and what hat I'm supposed to be wearing. So that sets my mental up to be able to switch all of those roles. I will tell you though that there's something that's unexplainable. I have a cameraman, right? So for the fishing channel, his name is Cameraman Bill. No joke. That's what we named him, and he worked for me with the construction company. We were friends first. We kind of were doing some political activism, and then we became friends. And then he worked for me, and then didn't work for me, and now he's my cameraman. But because he got to work for me, he saw me in that both lights. And he has. We're going camping this weekend, as a matter of fact. He's going to be with my. He's always hanging around me and the kids, and he. I was really thankful for him, like piping up maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He says this to my daughter and my son. He's like, "Your dad is not mad right now. Understand, like he's a straightforward guy." But he was trying to give them the perspective of like, trust me, I've worked for your dad. I never thought he was mad at me. He's just straightforward and businesslike during business hours, and then he shuts it off at 5, and he's my friend again. And I was just like so touched by that. Like, so I don't know, Rob. I don't have a really good explanation for that, other than, man, if you've ever there's a book called that is all about hypomania, which is not a bad thing. Like Alexander Hamilton was a hypomanic. Andrew Carnegie was a hypomanic. All of these very successful men, like founding fathers and stuff like that, they have this. Benjamin Franklin was a hypomanic. I think guys like us are that too, because we wear so many different hats, which also leads us being highly misunderstood by people. When we don't have bad intentions, it's just like, no, I'm just straightforward. Like like I said, I'm not being mean. I'm just answering questions, very straightforward and stuff, because I want to get things done. I have to move to the next schedule. So that's the best answer I could give you.
I appreciate it. I like it. I agree with you on that too. I think that's exactly how I am. I'm always, sometimes people kind of think they're like, oh dude, you're such a dick. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
mean to be. I'm just trying to like solve some problems and trying to help out the best way I know. And that's, for me, is just straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I've had to learn to explain that to people actually at this point in my life. I'm like, just to tell them right away, I'm just, hey, my communication form might seem like I'm being mean, but I'm just very straightforward and kind of a little robotic, because I'm just trying to drill down on. And then what's helpful is like, you know what, my son and I had this huge breakthrough over Father's Day. It's like 2 weeks ago. I finally explained that to him, and I go, Kyler, do you feel nervous, like just being straightforward with me? And he goes, yeah, I don't want to seem mean. I go, just please be straightforward. Like, I don't take offense to it at all. You can just give me a yes or no. I don't need sort of this big, long explanation and everything. Huge difference in our relationship now. The last 2 weeks have been like some of the best so far, because we're just getting things done. Because he works for me now. He does kind of just odd stuff. He's an artist, and sweet job sites for me, and just get extra cash in his pocket, and he's kind of floating around. He's 20. He's trying to figure it out. But yeah.
Awesome. So I know you've got a lot of different projects and things going on. What are some of the goals or things you're shooting for in the next year or two? Like where are you trying to get to with your business and different adventures and projects and such?
Yeah. We've been, the like how we started building here. I had a building background, as I talked about too, and then architecture and all that other stuff. And kind of got to get back into being a builder. One of the first projects we did was we designed to build a tiny house, and we were on HGTV every 2 weeks. It was awesome. If you it's like Alex and Lance's tiny foldable house. If you ever look for that episode, it's cool. This was like a decade ago, though, 12 years ago actually. That was a very successful project. It won an International Architecture Award. It went viral. It was on Dwell, and then Subaru, and then it was obviously on television. Subaru saw it, and they were like, "Build us 2 more," and I was like, "No." And then Alex goes, "If I command this fee, will you do it?" And I go, Yes, my wife can't say no." Then, sure enough, it's Subaru. They had a lot of money. We designed those, built those, developed those. It made a pretty good chunk of change. Finally, bought a piece of land. Then we became full-fledged developers. Finished the development, and then we started building. And so what I'm excited about now is like I'm just wrapping up 2 $3 million budgeted homes. They're just phenomenal homes. I mean, one has this like $150,000 staircase. It's curved. It's just amazing. It's in a turret. It's like Rapunzel kind of turret part of the house. The other one's Scandinavian modern. It's just beautiful. Custom trusses, all kinds of woodwork. And now we're taking a turn that I just didn't expect to happen. But I'm just like so enthusiastic about doing new things and new challenges, even though I know it's going to be hard. I'm kind of like a masochist, I think, about in a certain way. I'm a sucker for it. I don't know. But that's 4 restaurants. We're going to start 4 restaurants. I never would have thought we'd have been doing restaurants as builders. And 2 of them are, one's like a sushi restaurant. Another one's like a hot pot restaurant, which is some kind of Vietnamese thing I've never even heard about. And then there's this one that's like an Indian slash American, kind of a new age sort of thing. And the other one's just completely Boulder-esque, I would say, is the way I would say it. So that's what I'm excited about. We've done houses and everything like that. So I'm just really, it's just a new challenge, and I love learning new stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to kind of hear about that. And if listeners are looking forward to kind of following along with the different projects and things you've got going on, where can people find you and get in contact with you too if you are taking on new projects and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn is a place where I like to be very public about even my personal life. Like I did have Father's Day posts on LinkedIn about my kids, and it was fantastic. It went fairly viral. So you can just look me up there, Lance, Lance, last name Cayko, Cayko. There's only one of me. I will link in with you. I would love to follow you back and all that other good stuff. And then architecture wise, building wise, development wise, if you just go to f9productions.com, you can sign up for our newsletter. Check that you'll be updated with what we're doing all the time. And then last but certainly not least, Inside the Firm podcast. We have about 700 episodes. We've been doing it for about 8 years. We're kind of vets now in the industry, usually in the top 10 rankings for that genre, architectural business and that sort of thing. And we do 2 episodes a week. One is a Monday morning show where I'm interviewing folks like yourself, Rob. And then the other one is me and Alex giving you an inside look, what it's like to do all the things we do.
Awesome. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing your story and some of your experience and insights on today and obviously taking the time too. I know it's not always easy to kind of find time to carve out for things like this. And I appreciate you hopping on and sharing everything today. And before I let you go, I got to ask you, if you were to boil everything down that you've learned through the years from the different mentors and teachers and coaches and competition and everything too, if you were to boil it all down to one piece of advice for that young guy who just shifted his hobby from a hobby into a side hustle and he's starting his entrepreneurial journey, what would be your number one piece of advice for that guy?
Trust in the law of polarity. And we already talked about it. And I was wanted to sum it up in this way, and I didn't want to preview and kind of let that loose when we were talking about it earlier. It's like there's negative stuff that is going to happen in your life, professional, personal, all that. But then there's the positive stuff. And the law of polarity is an actual law of physics. And I only kind of figured it out and put this language into play in the last 4 or 5 years. I knew it had existed. It was just I was on a different show and somebody finally summed it up for me. It's like you can't have electricity if there's no negative, no positive. Like both have to exist. So you got to trust in that, and that when you're on your worst days, just always remember like there's another day ahead of you, and because you already went through that fire, then good days are ahead.
Yeah, I love that because that's what I used to basically tell myself whenever I'd go through hard stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is brutal, but don't worry, there's got to be something good coming up soon. So I love that. That's powerful stuff and great reminder. Gonna need to hear that constantly too, especially through a lot of the different challenges and things that myself and a lot of listeners are constantly going through. So Lance, dude, again, thank you so much. This was a powerful episode, and I really appreciate connecting with you and hearing a lot about what you've got going on and where you've been and such too. So thank you, man. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's it for today. We'll catch you on next week's episode.